latest studies. Coming up in the business week ahead, a slew of economic reports, including the final Consumer Confidence Index from the Conference Board. The separate Consumer Sentiment Index that came out on Friday was down slightly from September's, but the index's average for this year is at the highest level since 2000. Also this week, average home prices, third quarter home ownership stats, productivity, labor and employment costs, September construction spending, October car sales, and the October jobs report, including the unemployment rate, job creation, and average hourly earnings. Consumer and business news. Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
I'm sick and tired of hearing things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocrites. All I want is the truth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Only Show here on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. You're listening to the Truth Only Show, and we would like to invite you to go to truthonlyshow.com to find our previous episodes. You're all available right there in the website to watch, listen to, share, and enjoy. And you can also contact us through that website, truthonlyshow.com. And today we have a special guest coming on later on, Michael Garrity. He's an author, counselor, meditation expert, I would say, and yoga instructor. He's a man of many skills. But so he'll be coming on a little bit later on in the show. But now here's the host of the show, David Rodriguez.
Good morning, everyone. Great to have you here with us again on another episode of our show here, where we deliver you nothing but the truth. And the truth we're talking about is the truth about yourself. The most important thing that you could know about yourself. Before we get started, though, I want to give thanks to all those that make this show possible. Thank our new engineer here, Manny, doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much, Manny. And our webmaster, Mr. Joel Strausser, and my co-host and producer, who you just heard just right now, is Michael. Thank you all very much. And I want to thank again, as Michael said, we have our special guest with us today, Mr. Michael Garrity. He's got some really good information for you. And just to get started here, is give you a little idea, especially for all you new listeners out there, what we teach on this show. We talk about and teach human nature. Now, human nature is not about changing yourself, think about it, but discovering or awakening to the truth of who you really are. I want you to think about that. It's not about changing. You don't need to change. You need to discover yourself, find out who you truly are, and begin to use the power that you have within yourself to create a greater, much greater experience in your life. That's what this show is all about. We're going to get more into that today. And our topic today is discovery or awakening. All right? And after many years of study through reading, imagination, meditation, I've discovered that, just myself personally, I discovered that I was responsible for the conditions in my life. I created my circumstances. And what I mean by my circumstances, I had many good things in my life, but I also had some things that I really did not like in my life. And I discovered that the only way to change those things is by understanding what is imagination, what is meditation, and getting much deeper into it. I began to learn that, things can change when you know a little bit about yourself. Getting away from past knowledge, because I realized that I was living with past knowledge. Past knowledge is great, don't get me wrong. Knowledge is great, it serves its purpose. But when you're going through something new and different in your life, think about it. The only thing that you have at the time is past knowledge. How do you figure out something new that is happening to you that you've never experienced before? Is if you only have past knowledge to deal with it. So I knew that there had to be something else. There had to be a different way, And then I realized as began to understand more and more, I realized that there's nobody to blame. There was nobody to blame for what was going on in my life. Sure, there are some things that happened that I really didn't cause or whatever, but to take control and of circumstances, I realized that it was myself. I was responsible for what I was creating in my life. So now I'll give you just really quick a short version or a short idea of what your true nature is. This is it right here. You reap as you sow. Very simple. You reap as you sow. Or we can say cause and effect. I mean, we're talking about a science. This is an actual science. All of these things can be proven, but you must do the work to prove it, that you can change anything in your life. You can do it. Okay? You can change the circumstance. You can begin to live the life that you dream about living. But it's, like I said, it's all up to you. It is something that you already have. It is something that you already have within you. Maybe you just haven't discovered it, or that's basically it. And what I'm really talking about here is discovering our subconscious. What is our subconscious? And learning to use its power for good. Discovering your subconscious and learning to use its power for good. Now, I realize about myself that in a sense, I was really living in a hypnotic state. I mean, that might sound like a strange idea to you, but the more you begin to discover yourself, the more you begin to discover who you truly are, you realize that your actions that you were doing, the way you were living your life, was not really what you had to experience. You didn't really have to. But by not knowing who you truly are, not really understanding yourself, knowing who you truly are, you were creating experiences that I'm sure that many things that you would love to have changed about your life. But the great thing about this, it is never too late. And it doesn't matter. Your age makes no difference. You can begin to experience the life that you would love to experience right now. Okay? So, this is all about understanding your true nature. We're going to go into this a little deeper right now after we take our break, and we're going to go into it in a different way, and you'll be able to see what it is that you need to do by let's say learning to use your imagination, and through meditation you will begin to discover things about yourself that you never knew. So that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to concentrate. We have someone that with us today that's going to take you to a greater understanding of what meditation is, of what yoga is. Okay? So don't go away. We're going to take a short break. And I just want to remind you that you're listening to KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM here on the Truth Only Show. You can find us at truthonlyshow.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
check. Ah, there we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Truth Only Show here on KCAA 1050 AM. What you just heard was All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And we're back here, and we're going to get into our discussion, and we'd like to introduce our guest, Mr. Michael Garrity. He's an author now. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And a yoga instructor, meditation instructor, counselor, and so he's here to give us a perspective that is definitely has that level of expertise. So it's going to be interesting. Thanks for coming on the show, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's see if we can get this one closer.
You want to show? Can we show your book, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Here's the book right here.
Yes. The book is called Inner Yoga, and when did it come out?
In November.
In November,
recent,
okay.
Yeah.
Have you heard any reviews or?
Well, I've no reviews per se. I've shared it with a number of people, and I've gotten good reception.
Good reception?
Yeah,
Okay,
people
great.
have-
What made you write this book, or what was it that inspired you?
Well, it's not a very thick book. You can see it's in.
No.
And I kind of kept it that way on purpose because
Yeah.
there's a lot of information in there actually, in
Yeah.
just a few pages. And I've been working on this book for 20 years maybe. You
Wow.
know. It's I've had in mind writing. And in fact, I have several drafts. There'll probably be many more books coming. I have drafts of. So it's part of one larger work that's been going on for a while.
I kind of reading through it. In your introduction, you're kind of talking about how you feel as though psychology and stuff addresses spirituality, but they're kind of just giving it lip service. I think you said, where they're not really, really showing you how to do it, and that's where that you feel like the Eastern type of meditation and yoga and stuff is more addressing the spiritual side of things, and you feel like they need to be combined. Is that did I get that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I think we have. Well, we live in a Western society that is, despite some growth, is still pretty much a materialistic society, and so people shy away from true spirituality a lot of times. And it's an aspect of ourselves. It's what, like David was saying, it's who we really are. It's kind of the core essence of who we are. And so if we don't have a spiritual discipline, we're not in contact with ourselves. We're not aware of our true nature, our true essence.
Now you've been going into this Eastern teachings, philosophy, or whatever you want to call it, for how long now? How long have you been involved with it?
Well, I've been involved with yoga since I became a yoga teacher in 1981.
Okay.
Traveled to India in 1983 and stayed there for about 3 months at the Bihar School of Yoga. And then came back and lived on an ashram, which is a yoga community here in Southern California for a couple more years.
And Michael, is yoga now? Here, I think a lot of people think of it as just a physical thing. It's
Right.
much more than that, isn't it?
Right, and that's well. The title of my book, of course, is Inner Yoga, and it's just to refer to the fact that yoga is a discipline of the mind. It's the postures that are really popular now that you see people doing are not they're not the essence of yoga. They're kind of a preparatory stage
Really?
for meditation, for working deeper with the mind.
Oh, okay.
So that's for you, that's what yoga is really about.
Yeah, the classical book on yoga written by Patanjali, and I think roughly around 500 BC. He defines yoga. He says yoga means bringing the patterns of the mind into stillness, so that one recognizes one's true nature.
Okay, now, Michael, is this would this be considered Buddhist teaching, or is it what?
It's Well, it's more based in Vedanta, in the Indian tradition.
Similar to.
But yeah, I've also studied with a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, and so a variety of meditation styles.
Okay.
What I'm working on now really is integrating this more into a coaching practice. I call myself a body, mind, spirit coach these days.
Okay.
And I also employ hypnotherapy and classes in things like learning to evaluate different areas of your life and develop goals. Because yoga is about focus. And for a long time, I kind of bought this idea that meditation and yoga was a way of almost escaping the world, going off into this nice inner place of
taking a break
peace
from
peace and joy. And that's nice, but it's also a powerful way of transforming your life.
But getting away from this world, isn't it really just getting away from the thinking of the world, basically? I mean, the way that a lot of people have been programmed to think.
He's talking about what you call the cultural trance.
Right. Yeah.
Could you talk about that? Why did you add that word cultural to the top of that? Because I know a lot of people have said, a lot of people are sleepwalking through this world. But where does the cultural part of that come in?
Well, the cultural part comes in is that's culture is what creates the trance for us. They say that psychology says that by the time we're 7 to 9 years old, we've been conditioned by our culture, by our family, by all the different influences in our lives, and that conditioning lasts throughout the rest of our lives.
Okay.
And we want to address that because sometimes that programming, that conditioning is negative. It's counterproductive. Yeah.
Okay. I had a question for you from what I read from your book. That you are known as Swami. How do you pronounce that last word? Turiyanan.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, can you kind of explain that? What does that mean?
Well, that takes us back to 1983. I was initiated by my guru, Swami Satyananda Saraswati, into the Dasnami order of sannyasa, which is an ancient Hindu tradition.
Okay.
If you would have known me at that time, you wouldn't have recognized me. My head was shaved, and I wore orange robes.
Oh, okay. Now, is this term Swami? That's not? There's more people that have that title as far as Swami goes.
It's teacher, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty common title.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next word Tariyananda, that's specific to you?
Yes, yeah, that's my specific name. Although I share that with other people too. It's kind of like David or Mike. You know, we're not the only ones. But I explain a little bit in the book. Turiya is it means a state of consciousness, a meditative state of consciousness. It actually literally means the fourth. And what that means is that we have three ordinary states of consciousness that we go through. We have our waking state that hopefully we're in right now.
Yeah.
Ordinary waking state. And we're not talking about waking up in the sense that you were
just
David.
being awake.
But just being awake.
Yeah, being awake.
Yeah, and then we have a dreaming state where and then we have a state of deep sleep where we're not dreaming.
Now that one's interesting because you talked about that in the book. Like, how is that a state of consciousness if you're not really conscious during it? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of a paradoxical state.
Yeah.
What they say is that there is some thread of consciousness that goes through. There's some awareness that continues through all three of those states.
And then the fourth is.
And then the fourth state is a state that's beyond those four.
And that's where the first part of the name comes from. What was the second part, the Ananda?
Ananda means joy or bliss.
Oh, okay.
So
So let's talk about what you were discussing in your talk about today is that people need to awaken to what their true self is, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And you talk about that in your book. What is that? What does that mean to you? What is the true self to you?
what is the wow? That's a
I mean, you addressed it in here. I know.
well.
I know.
What I say in the book, and I guess the description, the best description would just say that the true self is love, is loving awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the truth. A true self is not separate from the universe itself or from the universal consciousness, but it's a kind of a small bubble in that. But I want people to realize that we are divine beings. We're divine beings with a great potential, and we need to awaken to that potential at this time in history more than ever, because we're destroying the world, and it's and I think that it's crucial. Well, awakening is crucial to turning that around.
And that's what you were talking about is our potential.
Yeah, well,
That's what we need to awaken to.
yeah. Well, what I was referring to as far as awakening to the fact that we are creating our own experience.
Sure.
I mean, that's why I talked about cause and effect, and why I said you reap as you sow. Those are such powerful terms that I know for a great part of my life, I didn't realize that we literally reap as we sow, that it's literally cause and effect, which very simply means if you're thinking negative, if you're thinking of bad, that's what you're creating.
Right.
And you can't get away from it. You can't escape it. And if you have good thoughts, good intentions, if you have good, like you said, love, especially, that is the highest thing that anybody can do is love. That's the highest form that there is. You will create that type of experience that will follow that. I mean,
Right, yeah.
And that to me is awakening to that fact that you can create whatever you want to create.
Yeah, we're not victims.
No, we're not.
We're not
No.
victims of our lives and circumstances.
No.
But a lot of times we believe we are.
Right.
And so part of that awakening, that's kind of an initial stage of awakening is realizing, that you are creating your own reality.
Right.
The other part of that, I think, is that we have to realize that a lot of that reality that we're creating comes from that conditioning I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
And so we have to dig into that a little bit, and we have to change it a little
Right.
bit. And meditation, and then also hypnosis
Right.
are real powerful tools
Yeah.
to change some of that initial programming.
So you know what you asked me about, what I talked about. This isn't really a matter of changing ourselves. It's more just discovering
Right.
who we are and awakening to the truth of who we really are. Because we really don't have to change ourselves.
Yeah,
Because, and I mean not change in this sense. We are creators. We are creators of our own experience. We're not going to ever change that, because you can never stop creating something. You can't stop.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah, the mind is working all the time.
It's working all the time, making something all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Now you believe that meditation is a way of coming to understand that, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I really like can you talk about the inner witness? Because I think that's an interesting concept that probably
that's-
most people don't know about
and
or
that's-
think
that-
about.
Yeah, that's something that I learned about from Swami Satyananda. And we have a capacity within ourselves to step outside of our own minds, and to witness what's going on in the mind. And it's really important to be able to do that sometimes, because you brought up the term monkey mind earlier today when we were meeting, and we have this tendency that the mind just works on its own. It's mechanical. It
doesn't stop.
And we can step outside of that and witness it at times, and it gives us a perspective. And an ability to, and also the ability to realize that we are not our thoughts, that we're something deeper than that.
That's interesting. What does that? Can you go into that a little bit more? What does that mean? You're not your thoughts, because I think people need to hear that.
Well, we have a lot, and again, it goes back to that the subconscious mind, the unconscious. We have a lot of thoughts and beliefs about who we are, that aren't true.
Right.
That isn't who we are.
Yeah, and that's what you were talking about, the ego in this book, right?
Yeah.
Well, you kind of talk about it here. This is from talking about meditation, and you say, our witnessing awareness sees our thoughts without attaching, identifying, or rejecting. And I think that's something that really speaks to what we talk about on this show, is that your mind will throw all kinds of thoughts at you. We've talked about that. Yeah. And you need to be able to sort through them and see which ones are useless. Yeah, right. And I think that's a key thing, because I feel like, me, maybe before I was exposed to that, you have these thoughts and you can get stuck in them and then start to spiral down in these negative thoughts just because they popped into your head. But that doesn't even necessarily mean that there's any truth to them at all, just because they came in.
Well, what we've talked about on the show is that the types of thoughts that you think, the mind will produce more similar thoughts. In other words, if you're thinking negative, the mind will throw more and more of the same type of thoughts back at you. That's why people get more and more depressed, because they're thinking negative thoughts about themselves, and they get more and more depressed because the mind will continue to throw more of the same towards you and take you all the way, like we've said before, even for people to commit suicide.
Yeah. But that's what the usefulness of that inner witness is, because it gives you the perspective to step back and look at these thoughts and examine them.
Right. Yeah, we can look at our thoughts objectively rather than I use the term identifying with them. You might have the thought that I'm not very smart, or I'm not very good at something, like that, and you have to question where that comes from, and if that's true. I had an experience I shared with some friends the other day. Every once in a while, experiences from your childhood pop into your memory, and it's really helpful, because it helps you to learn where you got some of this stuff. But I was thinking about it. I think I was third grade. I had I was not a very good student, and I was not very popular, and I was not very good at sports, and I had and I didn't think I was smart, and my self-esteem was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And but I one day we had a spelling bee in my class, and to my surprise, I almost won it. I came in second.
Oh wow!
I think I would have been first, but I surprised myself so much that I choked at the end. I got scared. But all of a sudden I realized, that one experience tells you, oh yeah, I can do a lot better than I thought. I can give myself a lot more credit than I did.
Yeah.
And so that was an example of just how the world around me had kind of programmed me to.
Yeah, and that's all it is. That's all it is.
The other thing that you started to talk about, I think that maybe think of it as a process of, you get that meditation, you get that ability to step back and examine things. And then what you were talking about, you call it imagination, and I think in your book you call it visualization. I feel like you're kind of talking about the same thing. Yeah. So when you say visualization, I can barely say it right now, but
that's a tricky word, huh?
Yeah, what do you, how do you have your people that you are helping go about doing that?
Well, you can use visualization to create. That's the creative power of the mind, isn't it?
Yes.
And sometimes when you use the word visualization, people have trouble with it too, because some people say I can't visualize, and that's because some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic. So it's a broad term, visualization, but you can hear. You can hear things, or you can not voices and that kind of thing, but you can hear, or you can have feelings that go along with the visualization process. And I encourage people to visualize, if they want to be healthy, to visualize themselves in good health, or if they want to be wealthy, to visualize themselves having money. If they want to be successful, to visualize that success. It also requires that we put some action into it. You can't sit around visualizing all the time.
Go ahead.
But what do you actually? So when you're having them visualize, do you have them like? Is there a certain process that you have them do before they start visualizing, or do you just say just think about it?
Well, I guide people in progressive relaxation. I think it's important to it follows the pattern of yoga in the Yoga Sutras. You disconnect from the world of the senses, so that you go inside yourself, and then when you're in a state of relaxation, and you're not distracted by things outside, you can focus on your own inner visualization process.
What about self-hypnosis, like using actual words to what I've experienced? In other words, what I know has worked for me.
Sure.
I say what I want to be. I say it to myself. I am happy. I am peaceful. I am prosperous. I speak those words, and what I've learned and understand. Do you see it? That's the same thing. What's really happening is you're telling your subconscious what you want, and it will begin to produce it for you because you're telling it what you want.
Right.
Will you find that to be true? That helps people. That will help, I believe, anybody for imagination or visualization if they start speaking it to themselves.
Well, that goes to the auditory thing that you're saying. If you speak it, and physical as well. But yeah, could you talk about, because you talk about hypnosis in the book, and what does that hypnotherapy look like to you? Because I know you talk about meditation as like a regular practice that's going to improve your life, but you talk about hypnotherapy as being like an intervention kind of step.
Right, because a lot of people have trouble keeping a regular meditative discipline.
Yes,
and
I can attest to that.
Yeah. And also we get stuck sometimes, because even though we're meditating, even we're practicing that inner witnessing, there are oftentimes things we can't see within ourselves, and sometimes we struggle with habit patterns, addictions, those kind of things, and so hypnotherapy can help with that.
Now, do you think that because I think a lot of people have this impression that if you're going to meditate, you have to set aside the time to do it, which I know that you do that. But what do you think about, like I myself, I've said this many times on my show, I'm imagining and meditating while I'm driving. I do that all the time. I'm meditating many hours during the day. What I'm really doing is visualizing my life the way I want it, the way I want things to happen, the way I want my day to go. Do you also, what do you think about that?
Sure. Well, we're people. I don't think people realize we're visualizing all the time, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah. A lot of times we just call it daydreaming.
Right.
Yeah.
And daydreaming can be productive or counterproductive.
Right.
Because sometimes we're just aimlessly going through fantasies in our mind.
And we're looking at we're visualizing negative experiences.
Yeah.
Instead of good.
Yeah, we might be imagining that, gosh, what if I get fired and I don't have a paycheck and my house burns down and my wife leaves me and all those things. Yeah, where we should productively be visualizing, yeah, I'm gonna do well at my job. I'm gonna be successful today. I'm gonna get a raise and make more money. Things are gonna go great. You know?
Right. And that's what will begin to happen.
Right. You wanna-
That's what we're trying to teach on the show. That's what will happen. What you say and think and believe about yourself, what's going to happen to you. That's what will begin to happen to
Yeah.
you.
Going back to the hypnotherapy, you said so you know some things that people need a little bit of extra help discovering or solving, and what is that? What do you actually do for them in the meeting? I know you probably you said you start them with the relaxation, and then from there what goes on?
Well, it depends. There are a lot of different approaches.
Yeah.
One of the so it really depends on what the person needs and what they're working on. I learned back in August. I learned a technique. It's called mindscaping, which has been very helpful for people.
What is that?
And mindscaping is you allow somebody to go into a light trance, relaxation, and they picture a landscape in their mind, basically.
Yeah.
And that landscape actually is the landscape of their own unconscious. And then once you do that, and you can guide them to go in and change anything that they don't want in there, anything that they don't need anymore.
So it's like a
Yeah.
visual or a mental representation of
Right,
what I think
right.
the mind looks like.
And it's actually very, very powerful. Yeah.
And Michael, you talked about that a small percentage of our thinking is in the present. Can you explain that?
Sure. I think that, like you were talking about, we often live in the past, don't we? A lot of our thinking is maybe things about the past, or we're worried about the future. And the present. I think really when we're fully present, we're not thinking very much at all, are we? We're just sensing and being, and that's really a wonderful place to be, isn't it? It's a wonderful state to be in. Is to just be. You're not regretting the past. You're not thinking of past issues, and you're not worried about what's going to happen next. You're just at peace, right?
I did want to ask you about some questions just for me, actually, because you are the one that actually taught me how to meditate, because I had always heard about it, and for me, I think I had the opinion that a lot of people have. They're like, what does that mean, just sitting there and thinking? They don't even really know, and it almost is. I feel this way, and I feel like that it's interesting that you, David, say that I feel like you say you kind of did it on your own. You figured out your own way of meditating where you get into that relaxed state and then you start to visualize and stuff. But I feel like you almost can't even know it until you do it, what it really feels like. And then you showed me how to do it. And that was the first time I ever meditated. And then I finally
really? Okay.
understood, like, oh, that's what meditation is. But could you describe that feel? Could you try to describe that feeling of meditating to somebody who has never done it?
It's very hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very hard. I think the best you could say is it's a deep state of relaxation. Herbert Benson, Dr. Herbert Benson called it the relaxation response. But it's deeper than that, isn't it? And it has to do with
because you're not really. I mean, you're relaxed, yes, but you're really not thinking about the fact, like, oh, I'm so comfortable or something like that.
No.
Yeah. There's different. Well, I model my meditation, like I said, on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and it goes through stages. There's the relaxation. There's that introvertedness that you go into, and then you focus the mind, and you focus on a visualization. You can focus on a religious symbol, or you can focus on anything
right?
that you want.
Yeah.
Okay, you said focus on a visualization. Now, do you mean like focus on a beautiful life? as part of your meditation.
That's certainly, yeah.
That's a
certainly-
powerful thing,
Well,
because that's a
yeah.
powerful thing. Focus your life as let's say it already exists. Focus on it as it already exists. Is that what you're?
Well, but the thing about meditation, I think, if I could answer it, see if I get it right, is that you can focus on anything to get into that state of relaxation. Like it could be your breathing, or it could
Right,
literally just be
right.
staring at a leaf, and you can get it. And that I'm assuming is also an option. You can just think about an idea, I guess, until you get into a meditative state,
Yes.
or what would you
Right.
say?
Yeah. The idea in the classical meditation is to focus to the extent that your mind becomes very quiet and very powerful at the same time. One of the reasons that one of the reasons that people don't realize the creative power of their own mind is that they don't focus enough.
Right.
Our minds are so scattered, right? We're distracted. We're thinking about a million different things.
What do you think about this concept? A concept that I've talked about many times on this show is learning to think what I want to think, not my mind doing what it wants to do.
Right.
Learning to think the thoughts that I want to think, controlling what I think about.
That takes some discipline, doesn't it?
Yes.
You have to learn to do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of discipline, actually, that's something I want to ask both of you guys. You talk about meditation and the benefits of it, doing it every day. What do you tell people that need help? How do they do it every day? You know what I mean? And I think that's something you both can answer. Like, how do you get people to practice this every day?
Mike.
Well, I know for me, I build it into my daily routine. So if I wake up in the morning, I take a shower and I meditate.
Can you turn your meditation on anytime you want during the day?
Sure.
I mean,
It's really helpful to take little meditation breaks during the day. To find a time maybe where you won't be disturbed for 5 minutes. And
Do you find it necessary when, we all are faced with difficult things that happen to us all of a sudden. Do you find it necessary to get into that state as soon as that little situation's over with?
Do you use it as a tool to
A tool
calm down?
to get yourself back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool, isn't it?
It is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
Along with the meditation, is breathing too. Just being able to slow down your breathing. Take if you're in an upset state, and maybe you don't have a lot of time to meditate even, take 3-5 deep breaths, slow deep breaths, and that'll calm you down quite a bit.
But let me ask you something that I experienced myself. Why I got so into learning these principles was that I actually learned this as a child. The meditation and the imagination. I learned it as a child, but then I lost it because as a child I experienced something really incredible. I realized that I had an incredible power as a child, but like I said, I lost it as I got older. And then when I started studying and reading this, I began to see that, wow, this is what it was that I had experienced as a child, which was this. I became really good at throwing a ball because I spent thousands of hours at throwing rocks. I literally spent thousands of hours throwing rocks. And all along in my mind, I could see myself getting better and better and better, that the more I did it, the better I was going to get, the stronger I was going to get, the more accurate I was going to get. So I could see it in my mind getting better and better and better. And that's what happened. That was imagination.
Right.
That was really meditation. But see, had I never lost that, I think I could have done some pretty incredible things in my life. But it's taken me to get older to realize that that's what was going on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's what was going on as a child. So the reason I'm mentioning this to who's ever listening to what we're talking about today, think about something that you were really good at as a child. It doesn't matter what it is, what you were really good at, and you knew you were good at it, but then maybe you lost it too. what was going on there is something that you can take back on now as an adult and begin to accomplish anything you want.
Yeah, to relearn, to reestablish those skills.
Right.
That ability to focus.
Right.
Yeah, I had, as a child, I had some interesting kind of psychic experiences. And
Really? What does that mean?
Well, the one I remember and I've told people about is I was probably about 5, and my parents and I were driving. My dad used to drive. We lived in Montana. My dad used to like to just go out and drive in the countryside and look around. And we were driving along one time, and I looked out the window, and being a little kid, you get excited when you see a herd of cattle. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Look at the cows! Look at the cows!" And my parents didn't see any cows. And they wondered what was wrong with me. And it was we went up around a bend in the road and on the other side of a hill, and there was a field full of cattle.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Maybe you smelt them.
Maybe. No, I saw them. So that was yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like people to know about your book before we wrap up today?
No, I've just
go get it.
Information how to get it.
It's available on Amazon.
Yeah, that's where I bought it.
Inner Yoga by Michael Garrity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a good book. It's very easy to read. I think that's
it's
probably why I was really getting through it pretty fast. It's good.
Could you give people listening information if they want to contact you or whatever, your contact information?
Sure. I have a coaching practice here in Redlands on Tennessee Street, and you can contact me by my phone, 909-373-6060.
Say that again. Repeat it again.
Area code 909-373-6060.
Okay.
Or you can email me at michael.garrity@hotmail.com.
Okay.
And you also have guided yoga meditations on your website. That's right here. Innertransformations.coach. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my website. Yes.
Yeah, I've used some of them. I've used specifically the Yoga Nidra one. That one's up there, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good meditation. That's if you need to relax, use that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any other thing you want to the listeners? You want to give them any wrap up this whole talk that we did today?
Well, I really appreciate your inviting me on today and being able to chat with you guys. It's always fun.
Well, we want to have you back again.
Come back whenever you want, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's interesting. I think it gives us a new spin to how to look at our show.
Yeah.
So I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it was really good. So, okay.
And that's pretty much it for the Truth Only Show today. We'd like to remind you to go to truthonlyshow.com, check out our previous episodes, send somebody to that website, have them check out the show, see what they think, help them out. And also, you can check out my band if you're interested at thebellcityplayers.com, and you can see a lot of videos there. And right now, you are listening to the David Paul Band, and you can check them out and go see one of their shows as well, and that's all at davidpaulmusic.com. And that's it for this week. We'll see you next week on the Truth Only Show here on KCAA.
Thank you very much for being with us. We'll see you next week.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
No luck needed for the Colts.